Alright, the next phase is the player's turn. Now, starting with the player in turn order, so again, going 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, you're going to start the turns. Now, the first step is to see if the Fantasy Defenders hero is in play, okay? If so, there's rules for that. And we won't really talk about that, but it's explained on page 9 and on page 16. But at the start of the first player's turn, you check to see if the hero is in play, and then if it was, then that whoever's controlling the defenders would resolve that hero's move first. Now, if there's no hero in play, you skip to the next step, which is to resolve the first event card on this event card stack. Okay, so what happens is we would draw the first event card and read what it says, and whatever it says, whoever's the defender's controller, again, whoever has this reference card, gets to resolve that, pick the targets, etc. Once that event is resolved, the card passes to the player to his left. Again, always skipping the first player if that comes, or the current player if that comes into play. Okay. Now, after that first event card is played, the player gets to do his turn. Okay, and this is where he gets to move his units, play the different power cards that he has. If he has any boss cards, he'd get to play those as well. Okay, so right now we're going to say it's my turn with the Dark Elves. Okay, we've already resolved the event, and again, I'm not going to go through whatever that event was. It was burning oil, but whatever it was, we'd resolve that, and then I would start my turn. Okay, now every faction gets 5 army moves. Okay, every time you move your unit, any of your units, it reduces those army moves by 1 for each space that it goes. And each unit can go only up to 2 spaces per turn, unless there's an ability or effect that lets them go further. So for example, this infiltrator, I just want to move him up closer, so I'm going to go 1, 2. Okay, that's the farthest I can move with a unit. Because I moved 2 spaces, I have 3 army moves left. I'm going to go ahead and pause on that for a second, because now that he's against the wall, I can attack with him, okay? Because he's adjacent to a wall. So I look at my reference card, and he has an attack of 1, because you have to do all of your attacks first, because if I went to another unit, then I wouldn't be able to do anything else with him this turn. So what I do, I engage in a battle. I pick up the red dice. Okay, this is called the burst dice. Okay, now since he has an attack of 1, I pick up this. If he had an attack of 2, I would add this plus the additional attack, so he'd have 2. If my infiltrator had an attack of 3, this is what I'd have. If I had an attack of 4, you'd have that, and so on and so on. Okay, so as long as he has an attack of 1, you always roll this first. Okay, or you always have this. I'm going to roll, and if I roll sword, I do 1 damage to the wall. If I roll the critical sign, I scoop up an additional 3 battle dice and roll those. And I just add that to whatever number I scored. So let's say, for example, I rolled 3 hits. Okay, I would go, so, the critical always counts as a hit, so that'd be 1, then I got 3 other hits, 2, 3, 4. And 4 damage is enough to destroy a wall, and so I would remove the wall and collect this as a trophy. And rules for the trophies are in the rule book. But if you remember, for castle walls, you get votes during the boss phase. Okay? So I've already acted with my infiltrator. I moved him 2 spaces. Okay? That means I have 3 army moves left. I'm now going to move my Dark Miner 2. 1. I lost an army move. 2. Okay? And I'm going to attack with him. he actually gets an attack 2 versus structures, and a wall is considered structure. I'll roll this, and let's see what I get. Okay. I got a miss, and I got a critical. So what happens is, this counts as a hit, and then I scoop up 3 additional dice, and I would roll that, scoring 2 additional hits, okay, on the wall. So that's a quick example of how you do battle, okay. Now, if you remember, I moved 2 spaces with my infiltrator, okay, and I have a total of 5 army moves. Then I moved my Dark Miner 2, and I have 1 move left, okay. And I'm just going to go ahead and move my ballista, my Dragon Ballista, up 1. Okay. Now I'm out of army moves. I can't do any other kind of movement, but I want to shoot with him, and I can, because attacking does not take up army moves. You can always attack no matter what. You never have to activate him, a unit for movement to be able to attack. Okay. And so let's say I attacked and I destroyed the wall and so forth. Okay. So that's basically how you would move your units. Okay. Now there's some other things you can do. For you, so let's take these guys back, and let's say I had my 5 army moves again. I can spend 2 of my army moves to move my unit anywhere. So let's say he was here. Okay. I can spend 2 army moves to move him to any of these battlefield locations on the board. Okay. He can be from any space. I spend 2. You can go here to +2 draw, or +2 gold, and so forth. Okay. So always keep that in mind. You can always do that. Okay. And when they return, they spend 2. So let's say you were here at the +2 draw, and you want to return them. That would cost 2 army moves as well, and they would go in the starting space. The other thing you can do with your movement is you can move to adjacent battlefields. So let's say, for example, my infiltrator's here for 2 army moves, okay, and the 2 moves here. He just goes to the corresponding adjacent space in the next battlefield. Now, if it was occupied by another Dark Force unit, then we would engage in a battle. And same thing if you were to land in one of these 4 battlefield locations and there was another unit like peasants here, okay? Because no 2 units can ever share the same space. They keep fighting until there's a winner, okay? So again, that's kind of how you do movement in Storm the Castle. Let's take a look at how you're going to do movement while you're within the actual castle. Okay, so actually let me back up. When you're here out in the battlefield, okay, you can go horizontal. Okay, that costs 1 move, so this would be 1, 2. But I can never go diagonal while I'm in the battlefield. But once I start moving into the castle, I can go diagonal. Okay. So, for example, let's say I was here in the castle wall, on the ramparts. I can either move to this space, I can move to this space, okay, or this space, or this space. Basically, anything that's adjacent. Okay. Another example would be, let's say I was here. Okay. And again, there's diagrams for this in the rulebook. Okay. If I'm here, I can either move here, 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 or diagonally into there. Okay. Alright, so that's just some brief examples of movement, and what we're going to do is talk a little bit more about playing power cards as well as when you're doing range attacks and battles as well. And so we'll talk about that here in the next video.